Great, and we're live. And we are live. We are trading live. We are trading live. Right, so here we are. So this is a live trading session, and in today's live trading session we are going to be trading the UJ. So we're going to, so currently I'm already in on the trade, but I'll be able to do a recap for you in terms of how I decided to enter the trade. Right. So before you enter any trade, it's important that you understand the trend, and then with the trend is part of what we call market structure. So market structure is where you get to figure out whether you want to buy or you want to sell. So what's the bias for the session or for the day? This is very important because you want to try as much as possible and avoid going counter trend. So if the market is showing a buy and you decide to take a sell position, that's what we call a counter trend trade. So you want to avoid that. So for you to avoid going counter trend, it's important for you to learn how to identify the trend. So as part of identifying what the trend is, we take an approach that is called a top-down approach. So for a top-down approach, that means that you identify the trend by the trend in the trade by looking first at your weekly chart, or looking at your chart from a weekly time frame, a daily time frame, going down to an H4 time frame, and then once you've figured out what the bias is, whether it's a buy or a sell, by looking at the three time frames, you can then go down to H1, M15, and possibly even M5. And if you want to even get a sharper entry into a trade, then you can go to M1. So for this specific chart, which is the UJ, let's go to the weekly time frame. So for the weekly time frame, we are looking at this. So we see that according to the shape, the trend is currently showing a downward trend on the weekly trend, on the weekly chart, I mean. So we can always go into a lot of detail about how that's determined, but what we always want to see is that as we work backwards, we want to see that we have we have a chart that is showing a downward price movement. So according to this chart, we can see that we have been forming higher highs and higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and then this almost looked like a break in structure, only for us to go back and start forming higher highs again, right? So now when we come back here, we we are back to this area, and at this area the price heads and retests this high. Okay, and then once it retests the high, it comes back to this position here, and it is at this position where it shows whether it's going to confirm a downward price movement on the weekly chart, or whether it will bounce back up and continue with an upward trend, which would then imply that you want to be looking for a buy position. So that's on the weekly, right? So when we look at this same chart on the daily time frame, let's switch to the daily time frame. Let's look at the daily time frame. So again, the daily time frame shows something different. As we see, price had been showing a downward trend, right, like that, and then suddenly there was a break, right? So that came broke. So we see that this high right here, price came back down and never really touched this low, and then it was able to come back here and break this previous high. So that tells us that on the daily chart, we have a bullish momentum, right? The chart is showing us that we need to be looking for a buy position, and we see that the price came down here and then it bounced right up off of this 800 EMA, and then price came back down again, and that is what it's done again, right? So so far we have, if I could recap, we have we have a buy signal from both the weekly and the daily chart, right? So let's look at again H4. So on H4 we see that there was an upward movement. Price came, tested this point, and then it's gone there, and then we are trying to see whether price will break this position at which point then we will say that we have we have a position to, we have an indicator or a signal from H4 to sell. But again, price came and bounced off this area. We can consider this as our point of interest. So price never really broke and took off took off to the downside. So but price bounced around this area. So again, it is very likely that price at this point will continue coming back up. So we know that now in terms of trend, the weekly, the daily, and the H4 are all showing buy signals. So what's likely gonna happen is that price might come to this area right here and then issue a reverse signal and then come back in this direction. Okay, just the same way just the way we've been seeing on the daily and the weekly time frames, right? So we have a very strong buy signal when we look at the weekly, the daily, and the H4 trend, right? So let's come back and now look at let's try and catch an entry. So on our entry, so in terms of entry, what we've done is our entry so far shows that we are in a sell position. Okay, so we're currently selling, and this is definitely a counter trend move, and I'll tell you why we are doing a counter trend move. When we look at the H1, the H1 is showing a strong bias towards buying as well, and we can catch a nice buy according to this H1. But the reason why we are not going to buy yet at this point is because we would be buying, instead of buying at a discount, we would be buying at a premium. So what that simply means is this: when we check and see the last low that we got, let's pull out our shape. Let's pick a rectangle, and then take this as the last low that we had. So according to this last low right here, actually I've picked the wrong tool. This moment. Right, so let's pick the crosshair. So this was our last turning point, call it a pivot point, and then this was the high last week. Okay, so as we've seen from the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, and the 4-hour time frame, all of them are really looking to pointing towards a buy signal. And so what we want to do is, now that the week has started, we want to look for a nice entry for a buy. And so with this as the lowest non-last position, and this being the highest, we can see from the numbers in the middle of the cross here, 2574. So 2574 shows that we so the length of that move from that bottom to that top was 257 pips, or 2,574 points, right? So both show the same thing. So what that means is the price position for us to come and get another buy is we want it to come to at least the halfway point. So what we're saying is if the price comes to about this point, 128 pips, which is about halfway from the top, then once it gets there and it issues a reverse signal, then we want to really have a keen eye on it. And then once we confirm that we have our reversal, mostly due to liquidity being taken out right around this point. It could be lower, but it has to get to at least this point. Otherwise, you'll be buying at a premium instead of at a discount, which is halfway, at least halfway into this region, right? So as we wait for that, we'll consider ourselves very lucky because we've taken a position which is counter trend. So I'll be closing that. Thank you very much. I'll simply be taking the the $100 profit as I wait for price to come into this region right here. And then once we have the price coming into this region right here, then once we have a reversal signal around here, then we'll be able to take our position and do a buy, right? So as you see, we've placed an alert at around this point. So just a moment, let's do the confirmation again. Let's pull out the crosshair, take that, measure to that top, which is 250, 256, 257. So at that point, that would be call it 128. So 128 pips. The price at that point will be 43.804. Right? So right there we pick out the two, and then we just great. So we've set an alert at a price of 143.808. So what that means is, if price comes back into the discount zone, then we will definitely be interested in buying. Okay, if it doesn't, then we will stay out, and should it break this high, then we will still be looking for it to come into the new discount zone. In case it extends this high, of course, it means that the halfway point will also have moved. So we will be looking for it to break that position and then come into the discounting zone. Okay. Okay. So what you want to do in the meantime, you want to always ensure that right, let's see. Video streaming bitrate. Right. Let's see. So that's that. So again, today is Monday, and a lot of times the market is quite slow on Mondays, and it's important to recognize that when the market is slow on Mondays, it's important for you not to force a trade. because what happens when you force a trade, you take bad trades and you lose money, and you don't want to be losing money. So you can come check out the 1 minute chart, see what's happening in terms of shape, whether we have exhausted the upward move. Okay, again we recognize that it's late into the market for today as Monday. So again, just to remind you, that for UJ, which is the USD Japanese yen, we are looking for a buy because we have a very clear trend bias on the weekly, daily, and the 4-hour time frame. So they show that we need to be looking for a buy position and not a sell position. So yeah, let's wait and see. This is how our chart looks like. We see that price has been rejected from this point of interest. It's taken off. It's likely that it's going to come into this region, as I mentioned. We look to buy, but we only look to buy at a position of a discounted price, not a premium price. So we'll continue looking at the charts and also looking at the time. I see the time right now is 12:46 p.m. New York time. So it's getting late. Usually it's not recommended to try and catch a proper trend past 1 p.m. New York time. So this being, and especially on the forex markets, so this being 12:46, then I'll just be giving the charts a last look, and then now based on that I'll be looking to end my trading for the day, unless of course I see something that's quite promising. So if you look at the US 30, so this is an index. Again, we do a quick top down. We see we are looking for, so here the weekly shows that there's an obvious selling bias. Okay, maybe not. Okay, maybe not as obvious as I initially thought. Okay, yes, there is definitely a selling bias. So you see here that there was a break of structure, and here there was a confirmation. So here what the expectation is that price will come back and retest this area, and then after that there will be a liquidity sweep, and then we can expect price to break down in this direction. So what we are looking for on the US 30 according to the weekly time frame should be a sell. Let's get a confirmation by looking at the daily chart and the H4 chart. So because it's possible that the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, and the H4 time frame may all show different biases in terms of direction of price. So let's see. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, confirmed by this break of structure here, which gives a higher high, and then this continues back up without ever retesting this area, which is quite strange. And it looks very likely that this area might be tested eventually, or will be tested eventually. So far it's failed to break that. Okay, C price is being rejected at that point. This seems to be a very strong area of supply, because we see that after this happened, we had this drop, and then came, retested the zone, and then we had this mammoth drop. Okay, let's try and see what other point of interest we are looking at. That's just another one, but there are quite a number of others. You can see this area, which is support and resistance as well. Right, so what we're looking for is how price behaves at this point of interest. But in the meantime, try and see whether there's going to be a movement upwards or not. But in the meantime, there's no indication that price will be moving back up. So you say that as it stands, weekly says sell, so daily also says sell. H4 says price was rejected there once. Price came and retested this zone, got rejected twice. Price came and retested that, got rejected 3 times. Price has gotten into that area, but there is no clear sign that price will be breaking this a very strong point of interest. There's no indication that price will be going past this POI, this very strong resistance zone. So now that we have seen this, we need to find out whether whether on H4 it shows a buy or still shows a sell. So here, let me show you. So right here, this was a lower low. Sorry, this was a higher low followed by a higher high, right? And then there was a break of structure here. Okay. This region right here, there's a clear break of structure, and then that means that this point right here sorry, let me take that again. Yeah, so it shows that specifically this point right here is a very, very, very strong high when it comes to liquidity, because it is from this point that price came down and eventually broke this low. Okay, yeah, forget the eventually. Right, so that makes this a very strong high. Okay, so this is not your typical high, because based off this high and the liquidity that's coming off this high, the previous higher low was broken, and that signaled a shift in the market structure. Okay, so with this point, we want to see price coming back up and testing the previous strong high and price being rejected. We see here price, let me show you. We see price coming back into this region and then being rejected, and then it holds in a range, comes back up slowly, approaches the zone, and then comes back, and then again you see this almost what we'd call a pin hammer, where price tried to sneak into that area and was strongly rejected back down. Okay, so price is still trying to hang in that area, but there's no sign so far that price will be breaking this zone. Okay, so again, if we are to try and find a bias based on H4, then again, H4 is also showing a sell. So you have a H4 showing a sell, we are waiting for confirmation of a buy on the D1. So far it's a sell. looks like a buy, but so far it is a sell. And then also on the weekly, it's a sell. Okay, it might turn into a buy, but so far it's not turned into a buy yet. Okay, so we're looking for a sell. So now into this area of interest, we are looking at the hourly time frame. You can see that again in this point of interest, see price came up here and was strongly rejected and tried to come back, and the position held, and price will try to come back, but of course the expectation is that the position will hold and price will be rejected downwards. But that is just our speculation. At the end of the day, what we're going to be working with, we are going to be working with the price action of the market. But what we are looking for a sell, unless there's a break in the market structure and price shows that it's now going upwards. Great. So price is continuing up. So let's see what's happening on the 15-minute chart. So price showed a downward movement here, as you can see, around 21st and 23rd May. And then again there seems to be a break in structure, comes down, goes up, comes retest that point several times, and then finally we see price going up. So clearly on the 15-minute chart, the US 30 is on a buy position, but what we are looking for, based on our weekly, daily, and 4-hour chart confirmation, we are looking for a sell. So again, at what point will we be getting a sell? We see that price is continuing on a buy trend. So what we're looking for, we will be looking for signs that there's a change. There's a change in the trend. Okay, with a bias towards a sell. So when price previously came up here, it formed this higher low, and then the expectation was that the price would come back in this direction and take off this high. But so far it's not been able to do that. So now question is, will it come and still take out that high, or will it come and take out this low? And when it takes out this low, that would mean that there's potentially a break in structure, and then what we would expect that price would go back in this direction and retest the zone from which it broke it came before it broke the previous higher low and formed a new lower high. Sorry, not lower high, but a lower low. So essentially what I'm saying is if price was to come here, it would signal a break of structure. Reason being, it would have taken out this low. So once it comes down here, then we will be interested in the highest point that it just came from. So assuming that this is it, assuming that price was to come back here, come from here and break this low, then it means that this point right here will be of great interest to us, because then what we will be looking for is for price to come and retest that region, be rejected, and then we will be watching out for a liquidity sweep. So a liquidity sweep is a rapid action back into that area, and then after that a reversal, and then price comes down like this. Sorry guys, I'm a bit exhausted, but that is fine. So great. So based on that, guys, we have to say that today we've, in maybe typical Monday fashion, we've not been able to get a good entry trade. If we were to get a good entry trade, then we would make our entry, and then after that we would take a trade in the right direction. So what I want to quickly do now, I want to pull out my notebook. So I want to note several things. Trend bias, USD JPY, we want to say that our bias is towards a buy, and then US 30, our bias will be towards a sell. Okay, so why this is important is because for the trade sessions between now and the next few days, we don't want to always come back to the market and analyze and do a top-down analysis again because we've forgotten. It's important for us to do a top-down analysis, but that's since the higher time frames are the ones that are going to dictate what the trend bias is, then and of course, because they are higher time frames, they're gonna be moving slowly than H1, M1, M15 and M5. Then what we want to do is we want to do an analysis, maybe say once a week, unless price is very close to a very key zone. But if it's not in a very key zone, then we can do our analysis and pick out our trend bias, say once a week. So far we have USD JPY, which shows buy trend bias, and then US 30 shows a sell bias. So other than that, I think I would want to thank you very much for attending to this live stream, and I look forward to you joining me on the next one. Thank you very much.